Hi, how you doing? This is Josh. Before I get into this review, I would like to mention again that I have a new podcast feed. I'm getting a little bit experimental with how and where and when I publish content, and I do have a new feed. I'll put the link in the thing. And right now, currently, there is a review of My Old Ass, which I highly recommend, but and some spoiler talk about The Substance over on that feed. Patreon is still the place to see everything collected in one place and to see everything immediately when I record it. But I'm just kind of feeling out like how I'm gonna continue to publish things. So I just want to remind you that that exists, and there is some content that's going to be over there that's not going to maybe make it to YouTube. So consider checking that out. Again, you can support me on Patreon. The podcast feed is free. There probably will eventually be a Patreon only feed. I'm still figuring that all out. Okay, I saw Megalopolis last night, and this is Francis Ford Coppola's long gestated passion project. 40 years or something like that. He has been wanting to make this movie and funding it himself and selling off parts of his winery and things like that to get this movie made. And now we have this giant, epic, expensive, weird ass movie starring Adam Driver and Natalie Emmanuel and Giancarlo Esposito and John Voight and Shia LaBeouf and Aubrey Plaza. Crazy cast in this film. And I saw it. I've been curious about this movie, heard about it forever. Didn't have very high expectations. He's a very strange artist, strange voice, this guy, Coppola. He's got high highs and low lows. You're glad he's out there doing it, but this kind of looked from the outside like it was going to be, I don't know, it was going to be, if not rough, interesting. And I'd say, yeah, it's somewhere in that range. This movie is very strange. On the one hand, it's just kind of a heavy-handed allegory, fable, where America is Rome, New York City is New Rome, and it's just about, is this empire crumbling under its own weight? And we should listen to the artists and the thinkers and the inventors and the scientists. And it's just kind of heavy-handed and obvious. Someone referred to this on Letterboxd as a Wachowski movie for boomers. And yes, it kind of has that feeling like it's a very expensive PowerPoint presentation for Francis Ford Coppola's philosophies and passions. And that's not necessarily bad because he's an interesting person and a filmmaker, but it isn't just boomer philosophy. It's like, a man who has been very successful, but also struggled a lot with his art and his, again, high highs, low lows. But he's kind of lived he lived a creative life. He's lived the life of an artist. And it just seems a little bit easy for him to be like, if we just listen to the dreamers and the artists, everything would be great. Now, fundamentally, the philosophy of this movie, which is like, more specifically, that having a conversation about the future is utopia, meaning we can't actually build a perfect future, but if we actually care about education and we care about talking about it and we just begin to have that dialogue and debate, that is how we evolve, and that's essentially what he wants to say, and his characters say it straight out looking into the camera. I can get on board with that. I actually don't think that's so crazy. It's just this packaging of it. Oh my goodness, this movie. It looks really interesting. It looks garish. There's a lot of green screen and fake backgrounds and swirling golden clouds and weird CGI environments. But it is shot very well. It's interesting. There's a lot going on. This is not a Attack of the Clones kind of situation. It's not that it's so stilted. There's a lot happening and there's a lot of energy and interesting characters and things. It's just the way people talk and the way everything's presented and how heavy-handed all of that allegory and philosophizing is. So as an example, we see Adam Driver's Cicero, I believe Catalina. Caesar Catalina is his name. Franklin Cicero is Giancarlo Esposito, the mayor of New Rome, and that's his rival and his enemy. But we meet Adam Driver's Caesar in a cold open at the top of a skyscraper, and is it the Chrysler Building or is it the Empire State Building? I don't know. He's at the top of a version of a famous building. That's his headquarters in the world of the movie. But then when the story proper begins, he gets another character introduction. Okay, so we've seen him already in a weird scene where we learn about his powers and his philosophy and whatever. But then when he actually is introduced into the story and he walks out in front of a crowd of people in the press and he has an opportunity to speak for the first time, what does he say as his introduction into this story? To be or not to be. And you're like, oh, okay. This is that kind of movie where a character like has a chance to introduce this himself into the story and say something profound, and he says to be or not to be, and then proceeds to do the entire soliloquy from Hamlet, the entire thing, before they get into the actual business of the scene and the movie and the plot. So this is the kind of people are quoting philosophers, people are saying what they think and how they feel in very like insane ways. Shia LaBeouf and Aubrey Plaza are having a lot of fun playing wacky characters. She is essentially like a sort of like a Fox News babe, but there's other things. There's all sorts of like metaphors and things going on. And Shia LaBeouf is like a weird kind of androgynous rich boy, but then he kind of turns into Donald Trump. There's so much happening, and it's all kind of like okay. But it's never not interesting. It really is constant big swings. Lawrence Fishburne is also here, and he kind of plays driver's driver. He's like his right hand man, whatever, butler kind of guy. But he's also narrating everything, and narrating like there will be titles on the screen, and Lawrence Fishburne will just read them to you. But then he'll also narrate what people are feeling and thinking and what's happening. It tests the patience, I gotta say. It's not as long as it could be. It's 2 hours and 20. It feels like it wants to be even longer. So I'm sure there's a 4.5 hour cut out there that's coming our way eventually. I'd say that if you're curious and you gotta see what's going on, go see it. You gotta see this, this. If you care about film and you're interested in the career of this interesting filmmaker, I guess we're lucky that this exists and we get to see it. And I'm not calling it a disaster or anything. It's just like, it is really like a boomer blockbuster, like a boomer art film. If there was like no interference from a studio to make this thing mass marketable, this is what we get. And I've seen much worse movies. I've seen much more bloated movies. I've seen much more nonsensical movies. And I think at its heart, like I said, I agree kind of with what this movie wants to say. I don't know that it's how profound it is for like a successful, wealthy artist to just be like, you should listen to successful, wealthy artists and the world would be a utopia. But that fundamental idea about education and the debate about the future is what propels us into a better future. I do agree with that, Francis. I do. There's so much other stuff going on here with purity culture and dead wives and all kinds of, costume balls and masquerades in the Coliseum. And this is truly a bonkers movie. This is like the big, there's been a lot of little scrappy indie bonkers movies this year. This is the big glossy legacy bonkers movie. And it is what it is. That's about all I can think to say about it now. I probably won't do a spoiler talk because I've already said everything interesting about it, and it's not worth really peeling away. That's the thing. There's so much going on here, and yet there's not that much you can get it, and there's not much to dissect because it is what it is. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, you can find the new podcast feed in the description. You can find all the stuff at patreon.com/JoshWay. You can find still many reviews making their way here to YouTube. So I thank you for watching, and I will see you again very soon. Josh out. Goodbye.